Are you ready for this? Are you ready for
Are
this?
you
Dun, dun,
ready?
dun, dun, dun.
Sorry, my natural inclination was to go with corn.
The power of many. You want to hear the hottest take you'll ever hear about this show? That's what seduces you.
Not anymore, because I put poo on it.
For movies to video games, this is Marie Plays It All. You thought we were done with it. You thought we were done with the Acolyte. You think we were done? No. We got one more in the chamber, baby. We got one more, and it's a biggie because there's things we got to talk about. First of all, I just want to say this. I have to say this. I understand that this show is about the duality of light and dark and yin and yang. And, there's got to be a little bit of light in the darkness and a little bit of dark in the light. And I understand the two need to go, whatever. But the execution of the show wasn't good, but that wasn't even what we're going to touch on that. We will touch on that. But there's other things about this show that we really need to explain why we dislike it. And if you like it, if you like the show, that's fine. I'm happy that you can watch it and enjoy it for what you see. But we need to explain why we dislike it so much. We aren't hating on it for no reason. There's truly a dark side in the underbelly of the show, which we truly believe. And usually people come at us with the argument that it's just a kid's show. So what George talked about last episode. And we don't think it's for kids. And we're going to explain why. But first, we want to dish out some Acolyte Accolades, I think. Right? And some,
Nice.
what's the opposite of an I know, right? But what's the opposite of an accolade?
Demerits.
There you go.
Demerit. Okay, there you
Yeah.
go. I want to know what you think your favorite scenes are. Let's talk about favorite scenes, then we'll go right into least favorite scenes. But let's go with George. What is your
All
favorite
right.
scene in the whole series?
My favorite scene, and I question if it's going to be the same for all of us, which is with the battle, and it's specifically the battle leading up to Jackie's death and the conversation had between Chimere, which I learned is actually Chimere. I've been saying Chimere all these freaking weeks,
Oh,
but yeah. Chimere and Soul, like that whole interaction, I thought was the best of the whole series. Honestly, decent action, just his character reveal and how he approached his character. There was great still shots. That's something that's very important to me, and I feel like most people when you watch a film or TV is can you pause it and see a story being told, or is it picturesque? Can I put this on my wall and be satisfied with what I'm looking at? Denis Villeneuve does that very well. You can pause any scene in any of his movies and it's like a painting. So there's moments in this battle that are kind of feel like that, specifically when Jackie gets taken out. It's very like it's going to be iconic. I feel I've never seen something like that where the person used the lightsaber in that way. It's pure awesomeness. I can admit it. Not
yeah,
ashamed of
yeah.
it.
No, we're not ashamed. We're not ashamed to say the good stuff about it, even though we're all on the same page about not liking it. But Rob, what's your favorite scene?
Same scenes. I'm going to say for those reasons, because they're so well stated, I'll pretend I had it that thoroughly thought out myself. But
Yeah.
yeah, again, I like Jackie fighting in the scenes, and there's some criticisms like, oh well, of course she's going to be so good at fighting. She's a Padawan, she's better than everyone else. Blah blah blah. I don't care. It was cool. I liked
Yeah.
it. I kind of thought it would have been interesting if they would have said sometime earlier, very briefly, that maybe she was a lightsaber virtuoso, kind of like a young Mozart of
Mm.
lightsabering. Would have made it a bit more believable, but I thought it was cool. I liked it. I enjoyed it. The lightsaber stuff was good. Is it better than the Phantom Menace lightsaber? I don't care. It was good. Like, on its own terms, I liked it.
All my favorite scenes, I think, in the show were all the lightsaber battles, but specifically, I had like the first one down. I mean, the Jedi shish kebab. I don't know what was. That was still one of my
That was
favorite
cool.
things.
Yeah.
Also, Chimere floating down behind Osha. I really love that, even though we never saw him do anything like that again, I don't think. But that was very ominous and creepy, and you were really like, what is that? Like, I really like that scene.
I loved that moment when he floated down, that kind of horror moment. I thought that was
Yeah,
fun.
it was
Um,
hardcore.
was it wise for him to reveal himself at that moment? Who cares? It was
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go least favorite scenes. Rob, we can start with you this time. What's your least favorite scene of the show?
Least favorite scene. Okay, so I have some like least favorite like
Moments?
shots.
Let's phrase it to moment. Let's rephrase it to moment. Okay. I had
Sure.
scene, but I meant moment.
I don't mean to be pedantic because what I want to say is I think the scene moment shot that I found really just goofy was when all the witches died at once.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
might think it was the power of many. It was more than when they all kind of went where all at once. It was so comical, and it was almost too functional. It's like, okay, they're all dead, guys. So that's what happened to them. Let's continue. Could you imagine if when Trinity cuts the Force Bluetooth connection or the Wi-Fi to all the witches? There was like this electrical shot that blew them all back
Yeah.
and it
Like
hit the
that'd be
wall and
cool.
they're like smoking and there's
See,
some
but
like
if it was
feed.
electrical, I would assume that she was a part of the dark side.
Well, I was thinking about
Mm.
that too, that maybe there was a little bit of like force lightning involved, intentionally, unintentionally, but again, you'd have this suggestion because, you know, Indara is not very good.
It would be
Yeah.
making us question all the Jedi in a much heavier way.
Right. And that's what the show wants us to do. Pick apart, deconstruct, pick
And look at the
apart.
Jedi as bad guys too. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So I thought that was really, really cringy. Of course, the power of many was a little bit obviously no one really liked it and that was goofy, but something about the witches showing them all die so quickly in such a sweeping kind of goofy way just to move it forward, that's actually burnt in my head more than any other scene that I think is not very good. Pelagius was just annoying, but it's that's the one scene that sticks out as the worst moment for me.
I have thought about that scene and
Yep.
how that one scene cripples the plot point for those characters. Because thinking
yeah.
back in the series, we're never given proof that the power of many is better than the power of one. If
Never.
anything, we're given proof that one is enough, and many can just weaken you for some reason. And if we're supposed to be siding with these people and not the Jedi, to some essence, we could almost say that maybe she didn't ruin the Jedi lore and she didn't ruin the Force. She proved that the Force is good and well, and the thread means nothing.
Mm.
If we really want to
Hmm.
look at it in a very forgiving way. But I will say here are my scenes. You brought up a great point, Rob. So it's bookended. The opening with May meeting Indara, because this is the scene that sets up the whole series. This is what's supposed to bait and hook us in to what is amazing about what we're about to hop into. And like I said before, I felt nothing. I felt no threat, no urgency from this character, from either character, to be honest. A lot of it felt aloof at times. Like Lara's response to her was just like almost whatever, who cares? And that's pretty much the groundwork for this whole series. It's just like whatever, okay. And then it ends with that same feeling, with May separating from Osha, these two sisters or same person who's supposed to be together, all of a sudden just be like, you know what? Whatever. You go off. You go do the thing that I was gonna do. And I'll just go off into the wind. Like there's it left us with no purpose with our journey. We're supposed to have some sense of growth and resolution, and nothing truly was resolved at the end of this. We're right where we started from.
Yeah, they're separate.
Yeah.
They come together to separate again, to have
Right.
season 2 about them coming together again.
I had two. One was just because I thought it was cringy and I didn't like it, and it was laughable and comical and it was supposed to be impactful, and I just didn't like it. And that's the hair cutting scene with the lightsaber. It was just too epic for me. It was too theatrical. It was too silly, and also I'm not gonna get into it right now, but also the pioneer coming out of the water scene. But it's extremely problematic to me. But to us, and we're gonna
Yeah.
that scene just really was a turning point in the show for me, big time. Where I was like, okay, there's more reasons why I don't like this than just like writing that isn't great and bad execution. There's more beneath the surface.
Since you brought up the hair thing though, I did have a note
Yeah.
about it because I think we've been watching interviews with Headland just to get prepare for this episode. And in her Mary Sue interview, her and the interviewer both acknowledge that that scene was stupid. She's the creator of this, Headland. This is
What?
her brainchild, and they both admit that May cutting her hair was stupid and serves no purpose because they acknowledge that Soul would know that it's her with her little head tattoo. And so it's like, well, if you as the creator know that that's dumb, why did you leave it there?
May cuts her hair, and I'm like, girl, you still got that thing on your forehead. You move your hair, and
You
then
got they could just move your hair. I don't know if it was the greatest idea, but she was definitely.
Okay, moving on. Favorite character, Rob. Favorite
I
character.
think you all know, given my name is Bromir, it's gotta be Chimere. In one sense, he's pretty actually one-dimensional, and we'll get to that.
Mm.
But he knows what he wants. He acts on it shamelessly. He uses any method to get what he wants. I don't think he's morally good, and I'm not praising him as a model or cheering him on, but as a character in this story, he expresses his passion. He's smart. He's a winner. He's tough, right? Like, as he's cunning, like he's a real threat, and he leans into that. Unlike these other characters that are filled with self-doubt, they whine, they're rigid in their thinking, they make kind of stupid decisions. When Kamir makes a decision that isn't that great, right, or kind of stupid, like why did he reveal himself so early? He's smart about it in that he wins, right? He's a bit theatrical, a bit of a drama queen, but like he pulls it off. So yeah, I think as a character, he's riveting on the screen. When he's in an episode, it makes it better. And he's interesting, I think ultimately one-dimensional, but he's interesting in that there's a simplicity to him, which is I get what I want. I don't think what happened in his past, well, we don't know that, is sufficient to warrant him being a murderer and manipulator to such an extent that he is. So I would say overall, I mean, I think he carried the show in a lot of ways. And then I also like Yord and Jackie. If you
Yeah.
have to say which characters you must like within the show, like, okay, you have to pick a couple, within the
Yeah.
confines of the show. I liked his character concept of being kind of like a rule-bound, like overly good, idealistic, a bit nerdy Jedi. I like that. And he's kind of buddy with, Jackie, and she's got the quirky element. I think they could have been developed. I like them within the confines of the show.
I think we're all going to retread on the same things with some of these characters because for me it was Chimera also. Like he's the one. Sometimes when I watch a movie or a TV show, I see a character that I like. I look at it's like, would I want to play that character? Is that the character like I would have wanted to audition for?
Mm.
And for me, like he's the one that gets the most to play with. Even though it's interesting, he probably has the least screen time compared to most other characters. You don't see him all that much, but the time that you do see him, you get to see him do different things. When we first introduced to him, he's not the stranger
Mm.
yet. First, he's Chimera, and he's this goofy guy, who does these probably some odd jobs for the head honcho and for May to help them along their way. But he doesn't seem like he has all his stuff together. And then to
Mhm.
all of a sudden get to be the stranger, be this Sith Lord or Sith character, and then show like his true motivations. And it's just a flip switch. Like those are the characters that you can have fun with. And like when you hear him in his interviews, you can see like he felt challenged. Like he felt like he had fun. And I think he had even said it's like, I'm never gonna do anything better than this. Like this is the best thing I've ever done. It sucks that he feels that way. I think that he has so much more to give
Yeah.
the acting world.
Yeah.
But that's awesome that he got to feel that way with a part. So I appreciate that. I think for him and for what we got out of it.
I had to really think about my favorite character, and like Chimere, I will agree that he had the most charisma, and when he was in when he was in episodes, the episode was more entertaining, and I was more engaged. I guess it was more engrossing when he was on the screen, and he was the most interesting. But I really was like, I don't want to pick him, so I picked Jackie. I just thought that she had this stoic innocence to her, but really intelligent, but paired with her ruthless fighting style. Like she was like screaming when she goes to attack Chimere, when she I'll never forget. That might be one of my favorite scene shot moments too, just because you felt all this. Maybe she had too much emotion for a Jedi in that moment, but you really felt it. It's one of those moments where you really felt that someone cared about somebody else, and you don't really feel that in the show. You don't feel any emotion between characters, and you really felt that she cared so much about the Jedi and what was happening in that moment. And she was passionate. Once you saw her in like a fighting style, like you say, Rob, like when she's like in a fighting combat situation, you were like, I was like, whoa, okay, this chick has layers. There's a lot more to her than what she's showing. You think she's this cute little innocent, delicate, just intelligent Jedi, but then she gets all ruthless and she's all, yeah. So she probably was my favorite, and I really had to think about it, and I think it was her. Least favorite character, George.
I mean, come on. I went into this show with it being the Osha May character before I even knew who Osha and May were.
Yeah.
It's the one unit that is them. There's no development between those characters. The actress, maybe she's good at other things. Maybe she's really good at other things. I haven't, truly given her a chance in other stuff that she's been in. So maybe she is. But in this specific performance, everything people would say about Brie Larson and Captain Marvel is how I felt about this girl Amandla in these characters. I felt zero emotion. There's in that last scene, I think that last, like when she's force choking Soul and like she's just there.
Oh
I was like,
God.
where's your like tremble? Like to have like a twitch in your face, something. Like
Yeah.
show us. Like again, it goes to that thing where it's like, this isn't a pause situation. This is like I should be able to turn off the sound and just see by your expressions
Mm.
what you're going
Mm.
through. I shouldn't have to rely on orchestral music to like tell me like, oh, things are happening right now. It's like, no,
Mm.
show me with your face that you're passionate about this kill you're about to do. It's like I didn't get any of that. Like I didn't get the emotion from them when they were separating from each other. It's like there's just
Mm.
nothing there. She was devoid of all of that, which is something
Yeah.
because when you go to the dark side, you're filled with emotion. You people want to talk crap about Hayden Christensen, and I was one of them. I'm not going to pretend like I wasn't. All right, but I gotta give credit where credit's due towards like he showed emotion. It
Yeah.
may have actually felt over the top at times, but you know what? I will take over the top emotion than zero emotion any day.
Least favorite character, George, again, we're on point together, which is Osha May. That singularity, I didn't really enjoy that character on the screen. Constant motivation shifting and going from Osha to a murderer and being easily manipulated. Well, it wasn't well done. I didn't find it persuasive. I found Osha despicable by the end.
Yeah.
Like she became a murderer, and that was wrong. You could say that's not the way of the Jedi, because as Lucas said, the Jedi seek compassion, whereas the dark side is selfishness. And it's not, she has become a Sith or Sith light, and that's like a bad thing that we should lament, but this is now a good thing. I don't think that's right. I mean, you gotta sincerely ask yourself a question. Is it good that she murdered Soul, a man who's pathetic, who is trying to say I love you, who is sort of begging for mercy? I didn't think this was a good thing. It was like this is terrible and not persuasively done. I also didn't really like Soul in a way. I maybe liked Soul less in a way, and I thought his obsession with Osha came out of nowhere with no sort of reasoning or backstory. And he became kind of creepy, morose, and obsessive, and a liar. I thought Torben was really like whiny and pathetic and self-indulgent with his own misery. I didn't like it. Indara. I don't know. Like, so Ojimi and Torben are up there, but then Soul will kind of pop up there as like, S tier character I don't like. So I don't like a lot of these characters.
Oh, Osha and May for me for least favorite character, especially Osha. Definitely was way up there, but I put Soul because he was written so badly. How do I not have empathy for this character? I feel like I'm supposed to have empathy for this character, but I just do not. They didn't flesh him out properly. I didn't feel like Soul had much soul to him, really. And I feel like you're supposed to feel that way for him. I just feel like his character was written so bad. And I think he's supposed to be, because we're not supposed to like the Jedi in this. They're like the villains, but still, Soul rubbed me the wrong way. George,
Yes.
favorite performance on the show. What is it? Who is it? Who was it?
Goes back to Manny Jacinto as
Yeah.
Chimera. Like he's
Yeah.
just
I
repeat it
mean,
again. Yeah.
we kind of covered everything about like him being the favorite character and why, and it's pretty much was mostly based on his performance. And now he definitely had the best acting chops on the whole show. Like you really,
Yeah.
and he was so convincing as him as like before he became the stranger. He was
Yeah,
so convincing as
as
both.
Chimera,
As
the
Chimere,
introduction. Yeah.
he was
Look at his
also my favorite.
physicality. You look at his
Yeah,
physicality, like
yes.
how he carries
He's
himself in that apothecary shop and how he carries himself when they're on the island are two different people. His character wasn't developed, and that's a good
mhm,
bad thing. So good thing in the essence where it's like he gets a lot to play with. Like he gets to really build this character from the ground up. And if they like it, they like it, and they roll with it, you know. At the same time, that's horrible writing. Like, how are you creating a world where you don't have the backstory for this character? Like Headland had admitted that there's not even a name. Like his real name isn't Khmer. He has no name. They have
mhm,
nothing for him. Like who he is on the screen, that's what you get. And a lot of stuff that we got, he kind of put together. He gave the
mhm,
character the depth that he needed to really ground him and make us feel anything for him. You know, kudos to him. I think
mhm.
that's amazing. I also feel like the directors of these episodes weren't doing their jobs. This is a good example for people who question, because I get asked this question: how can you tell when there's good acting or bad acting, and good directing, bad directing? Like how do you know whose fault it is? And this is the example, because if it was good directing, then these characters, these actors would know what to do with their characters. You know, we would see a little bit more drawn out of them. Look at Scorsese with Leonardo DiCaprio. Before DiCaprio was with Scorsese, I personally, on a personal level, I didn't think he was ever challenged enough. Once he goes with him, you're seeing a guy who can do things that we never thought could be possible. You know, like you're seeing different personalities that
Hmm.
you just didn't think this pretty boy can pull off. What Scorsese does with Leonardo DiCaprio, that's great directing. With obviously a talented actor, but that's what it looks like. With this, like we know the guy who plays Soul is a good actor. Watch Squid Games, like he's phenomenal.
Mhm.
So it's obvious that the directors just don't know what to do with this guy. And that shows with the Mandela, it shows with the rest of them. Like it's just people who are still too fresh to this craft and just don't know what to do with them. They lucked out with Manny Jacinto, in my opinion.
So that was both of our favorite performances. Rob, was it also?
You know.
He's been clutching that fan this whole time while we're talking, and he's like, "My favorite."
uh
Favorite actor, same as you both for those reasons.
Okay, well, I'll go first. Least favorite, worst performance. Least favorite, worst performance. I think we're going to be on the same page with a lot of this. Amandala, what? What? Again, this could be bad directing. This could be bad directing, but just how dry and flat and cardboard and stale and plastic and mannequin and frozen and emotionless he was as Osha and as May. They felt like, I know they are technically the same person. We're not supposed to know that for the whole thing, kind of. I wish she would have had some distinction between the two, but she felt like she was always the same person on screen. And I didn't care about Osha or May in the least. I didn't care about them at all. I don't care if I ever see them again. Her walk, her put on low voice that she did, her facial expressions, just whenever she was on screen, I was just like, oh, it was like cringy to me, and she was unbelievable as a force sensitive person. I just everything about her in the show, I just did not like.
Ditto.
I think we're on agreement. I don't think she had a lot of presence. Again, yeah, I thought she
No.
was pretty flat. And then the constant motivation shift wasn't that persuasive, especially when she said, you know, I'm going to turn myself into the Jedi as May. I'm like, oh, you're perky now. And that's the thing. You don't like the acting. And if you don't like it, if you don't like Amanda, there's something wrong with you. And now we should attack your character personally and make
It was
implicit
bad.
or explicit accusations of you.
It was bad acting. It was good. I don't care.
I think people liked the shipping of Chimere and her, and it was not so much OSHA. It was like an obsession with the relationship itself and its characteristics and how it formed.
Yeah, because if they had shipped him with May, we wouldn't have cared. I'm like, okay,
No, exactly.
May's already bad, and
Yeah.
she's killing for revenge. You're killing for revenge. Yeah, okay. You guys are on the same page, same path. Go for it. Do your thing, bro.
Okay, so big question for you guys before we get into why it's so problematic. Was the show better or worse than you expected?
I expected, honestly, far worse.
Really?
Yeah. And it's because I
Oh.
signed off. I wasn't gonna watch Star Wars shows for anymore. So when your bar is already low, it's below zero. It's like, all right, well, sneezing will be better than what I'm expecting. You know?
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't, I like that answer from you. Rob, you haven't seen any Star Wars shows except for this one. You gave up super hard on Star Wars. Was it better or worse than you expected as someone who quit Star Wars?
It was better in one way that it held my attention because of Chimere. But that character was also part of the larger problem, I think, with the show, which was beyond my expectations, which I think it went to dark places when it came to it's not destruction so much of the lore, but of the moral fabric of the universe. Not simply just a critique of the Jedi, but the ideals expressed, what Star Wars is about, the sensibilities and kind of moral direction that it should have. Not that I'm saying externally, I think it's problematic, it's immoral. Within its own Star Wars universe terms and what we expect from that world, there was a dismantling of the entire structure of it intentionally that replaced it with something that was creepy and uncomfortable, masquerading as sort of the freedom to love how you want or be yourself. But underneath that, there's a lot of questionable, ideals in the Star Wars universe that should raise some eyebrows, I think, if you're honest about it.
That's why, for me, it was worse than I expected. Even if this wasn't a Star Wars show, I wouldn't like it. But because it's a Star Wars show, I dislike it more. Because watching it and knowing what we know that about Star Wars being about heroes and role models and people to look up to and hope, all that stuff, it just makes me feel, especially with OSHA being so problematic, because she's supposed to be the protagonist in this. She's supposed to be a role model, I would think, because that's what Star Wars kind of is about. So I would think that when you're watching it and you start it out and she's the good guy and you're like, oh, this is a role model, little girls can look up to her, then realize how she could be so easily persuaded to the dark side. And then okay. So Headland called OSHA joining the stranger Chimere her triumph. It was OSHA's triumph when she joined him. And you're thinking, it's a triumph to be mentally and emotionally manipulated, a triumph to like turn your back on your family and say, oh, found you, sister, peace. Like that's your triumph. I'm gonna wipe your mind and send you off, never see you again. And that's triumphant. And it's a triumph to turn to the dark side, dude. Like that's what it is now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay that that's her triumph, I think. That's fine. It's okay that that's her perspective of what winning looks like, OSHA. And even if for Headland, if that's what she thinks, that's okay. Soul should still be our hero. Indara should still be our hero. All the Jedi should still
Yes.
be heroes to us. Chimere and Soul, they should be polar opposites. Like everyone on the outside of her, those are her angels and demons. So I'm okay with OSHA and May being conflicted, being confused, not having a side to truly be on because they're still figuring it out. It's executed poorly, yes, but that's fine. But the fact that there's no one for us to like be like, that's my person to look up to. The person who we had was Yord. Yord and Jecki were the people we're supposed to look up to, and they got killed. Anyone else was questionable. You know, that you took out our moral compass by episode 4. So by the next 4 episodes, we're just like, all right, we're just surrounded by demons. The only option
Yeah.
is to go evil because that's all you're presenting to us.
Looking at the statements from some of the actors and also Headland's comments, you don't have good and evil in this story. I mean, there will be evil, but it's kind of presented as good. But the first principle is this moral relativism or subjectivity, which means that what you think is good is based on your perspective, and the reasons why you think that's good is sufficient to, make that triumphant or, showcase it as a good thing. So it seems like the first premise is that morality is subjective, everything is gray, except the second premise seems to be the exception is your authenticity, excuse me. What is good is to be free. It's to be free to do what you want. I think Chimere's presented as the dark hero, but ultimately Chimere is the one, I think in the show's own terms, that he's doing the quote unquote right thing. Because third premise, the problem is that if he does anything evil, or in fact, he is justified in doing these evil things because he has been oppressed.
Yeah.
And so oppression's what's bad, liberation from it's what's good, liberation to do anything you want, so long as it's true to yourself. And seems to be no moral limits to that. And in fact, any means are available to you in order to liberate yourself from the oppressive Jedi. One of the problems with that is I didn't see any evidence in the show that the Jedi are this oppressive group to other people. I mean, if Indara really talked to the Jedi, they said, leave the children there, come back. They did not send a witch hunt against the witches. They leave them alone.
Mhm.
And moreover, it didn't look like Chimere was being hunted by the Jedi. It was personal with Venestra. Something happened between them that seemed to have turned him. But the dark side, being a Sith, is fundamentally selfishness, as Lucas said. You cannot remove that from the story. That is a pillar of the moral and metaphysical pillar of the universe, which is if you are a Sith, you are fundamentally selfish. You seek power and to satisfy your own desires in a way that's just objectively not good. That's how I understood that. That sort of that unfolding of the story and sort of what lies behind it. And Headland is very explicit that you should read symbology into this show. It is chock full of symbols. And she was even explaining like the costumes you should read into. Osha wears gray and then black.
Groundbreaking.
And so it's chock full of symbols, and she seems to give the green light that you can, read into it. And part of this new way of looking at the Jedi that she dismantled, picked apart, is being replaced with, like I said, this kind of like uncomfortable ideal of what, say, a love or intimate relationship should be. In which she was being interviewed by Maggie Lovett, Maggie said, I love them so much. I love the stranger. There's always a character that's an avatar for me. I really, really love. Oh, excuse me. That's Headland. She says that Chimere's an avatar for her, like a projection of herself. And yeah, Maggie responds to that and says, I also love that scene, the water scene. And I think the lightsaber scene against his throat. I also love that scene because, yes, it's unabashedly horny. You have a lot of bare flesh in Star Wars, which is so delightful. But that nudity then kind of brings a different layer to it because you're getting vulnerability. You're getting nothing to hide. All of these different themes. I'm curious how far you were allowed to push things with how much skin was shown. And did you have to fight to be like, no, this is heavy symbolism. this is helping to carry the story a lot. Headland goes on and says, we reference the relationship over and over again, this relationship from Lo and Jen and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. But the intentional parallel, she says, is that they are not equals, and that they are equals, and their relationship is earned through mutual vulnerability, not intimidation or manipulation. And then later says, in my opinion, Osha is extremely in denial about her own anger at the Jedi and at her father, Soul. She's in extreme denial about that because she feels like she's not allowed to be angry, and she's in an enormous amount of pain over her sister and their history. And she also feels that she's not allowed to feel that way. So someone coming in and saying, actually, feeling all those things is not only okay, but actually could restore your spiritual foundation. It's almost too much. Headland says, I don't think that's manipulation. It is totally manipulation. He is manipulating her to get an acolyte. That's what he wants. And
That's the
doesn't this
point.
imply that her spiritual foundation, Osha's spiritual foundation, is laid and fulfilled by killing Soul? Because that would be the triumph, the fullness of her is the killing of Soul. Chimere, the stranger, uses intimidation and manipulation to get Osha to both love him and be his acolyte. He is the teacher lover. I mean, this is wearing two hats, and being the educator of someone in a romantic relationship with them is a power differential that can be abused. When he, like we said, when he comes out of the water, she is forced to look at him because he's a intimidating danger who killed her friends, the friends she grew up with. So he is showing a vulnerability as a means to persuade her to join him. And if you want to read symbolism into it, the kinds of statements Headland says that he is thinking, which is like, I know you're feeling this. Just let it go. Feel it. I'm here for you. It's okay. No one's looking. And when the lightsaber's against his throat, it's like, I'm in your mercy. You have all the power here. No, he has all the power here. I'm going to say something that's hugely controversial, but you want to hear that? You want to hear the hottest take you'll ever hear about this show?
Let loose.
Yeah.
Chimere is the Andrew Tate of the Sith.
Okay.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you.
Masculine.
Yeah.
Gets what he wants. Buff. Manipulates. There's a statement that there's a lot of femme coding in the clothing where he doesn't do masculine things, Chimere, like traditionally speaking, like he cooks and lays out her clothes and stuff like that. That's a mask. Like he's playing the vulnerable, soft character in order to get his acolyte, in order to get what he wants. Like that one point when he said, May chose me right away. And the way she looks, it was like, is that a criticism or was that a compliment? That's manipulation. That's gaslighting to make her doubt what she is doing. Am I being a good girl or am I being a bad girl? I'm going to evaluate myself and my spiritual foundation based on what this guy thinks of me. And isn't he being vulnerable right now? He's showing his true self to me. A murderer who just killed your friends. I think if you're honest with yourself and you watch the show, that is what he is. And he is the free man that we should be like.
Just using vulnerability as a manipulation tactic.
Yeah, and I think it's telling when she says explicitly, I don't think that's manipulation, and it's bolded in the article. And that seems like she knows it is. Am I wrong to see Chimere as one, this type of person, and two, that he is presented as the kind of hero?
Yeah, it's one of those like base level kind of argument things where it's like on the surface, like, yeah, of course, yeah, I can't disagree with freedom. But at the same time, like, look at like a good fictional thing to compare it to, the X-Men. Magneto is fighting for the rights and safety of his people, the mutant kind. And being someone who survived the Holocaust, he knows what genocide looks like. So he doesn't want to see that ever happen again. I can agree with that statement. I think everyone can sense be sensible enough to follow that sentiment and be like, yeah, that's bad. We got to give everyone a chance. But the means he goes about it is murder. It's violent. He gives no regards to any human because it's like, well, you're a part of the race that's trying to get rid of my race, so you're all bad. I can't give any of you a chance.
Mm.
That's a villain. He's sorry, like, yeah,
Mhm.
your cause is worth fighting for. You're just not using the right means to go about it. That's why I'm going to follow
Mhm.
Professor X, who wants to save everybody. He wants to make everyone realize that, or help not make, but help everyone realize that the right way to go is a non-violent way, and we can
Mm.
all live copacetically together, not like Magneto. That's what this is to me. It's like this guy's like, yeah, I get you. You want your freedom. You don't want to be oppressed. I'm with you. Murder's not the way.
That's why I'm saying it. How is it a triumphant ending? For me to make it a triumphant ending, it would have to be this whole time OSHA is manipulating Chimere. And they could have done it in a scene where, yes, she's joining him, but only to get back at him and the people who made him evil, like the bad people, not who made him evil, but like the evil people who are above him. And they could have had a scene where he's looking out at the sunset and she's like getting something down and she's like looking at him and she makes this face like, oh, I'm gonna get you. You don't even know it. You think I'm here and being your little acolyte? I'm gonna get you. And I think that would have made the whole thing fine. Like that would
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
then it still gives hope that she's still good. She's gonna get her sister. They're gonna become one. Good will prevail because that's Star Wars. But no, that's not what the show was at all.
She should have freed herself from both Soul and Chimere.
Mm-hmm.
Yup.
And I don't
Yup.
need either of you. I am not your weird surrogate daughter, and I'm not your weird student lover play toy. And
That's
that would
powerful.
Yeah.
bring maybe
Because I
made
don't need a
OSHA.
man.
Well,
I don't need no man. Yeah.
I mean, fine. Like, well,
Uh,
that's the weird thing. I mean, people really like, this relationship, they ship it. And I'm like, Chimère's a toxic male. Now you look at that and then you combine it with what happens to Torben
Yep.
and Soul's weird obsession with OSHA and
Yep.
Yord's, shirtless scene. And now you have this
Yeah.
domination throughout the show, a form of like erotic domination throughout it, catching people with no clothes on, being forced to see them, being seen, Torben crying to go home, but locked in a prison with a woman, with a person coming on to him, crying to go home, being brought to his knees.
Kneel.
The soul being drained from his eyes and being completely at the mercy of someone while other people are there but can't see it. So you have all those elements put together, and then what you have is a show that seems to think it's okay to use people when they're vulnerable.
I was gonna say when you compare it to like the Return of the Jedi, and the first time I feel like we saw a very sexualized character, Slave Leia, and she's with Jabba the Hutt. Granted, for the nerds out there, yeah, we're all like, yeah, Slave Leia is super hot. But you know what? When nerds are fantasizing about her, they're not thinking of themselves as Jabba the Hutt, even though some of them might look like him. It's like that's not where they're thinking themselves as Han. We're Han Solo, and I'm getting Slave Leia because she's hot, But that scene is not supposed to be depicted in a way where it's just like this is good. No, this is bad. She's being
Real
objectified
bad.
by a bad person, and we need to help her out because she's one of us. So like for me, whenever the only time I could think of a sexualized moment in Star Wars of the original 6 movies, that's it. And it was not a
Mm.
good moment. It was not to be celebrated, from that idea of what was happening to her. So now all of a sudden we've taken that with Disney's reign, and you think of the Reylo thing, like when Rey sees Kylo Ren shirtless, or in this show, and now it's just like that's good. It's like no, that's not good. You're not Rey wasn't supposed to see that. And I get what you're trying to do. I think in the back end you're like, us girls got to have our moment now. The boys had Slave Leia, now we need our things.
Mhm.
It's like,
No.
okay, you can have that, but there's still a tactile way to go about it, I think. you can have your shirtless men, whatever, but rhyme and reason for it, you know? So like him having his bath, that's okay. I have nothing wrong with him having his bath because he's had a dirty fight. Okay. But did you have to then utilize it in that way where we have to now feel disgusted with both of these characters? You know, like, we shouldn't feel gross watching the show. I don't think that should ever be a feeling you should have when watching a Star Wars show, which is a family,
Yeah.
product.
A world has its own metaphysics, morality, and sensibilities with aesthetic taste. And when you depart from that, you've changed the world. So in Star Wars' own terms, you shouldn't go there. Just within its own universe, if you do that, you start breaking it, and now it's dress up. It looks like Star Wars, but it's not. And Headland says in season 2, the stranger and Osha will be and tragically, but it's tragic because the love is good. It's something you don't want them to lose.
Yeah, this is not the Romeo and Juliet that I want to watch, though.
No, it
Yeah.
didn't. They didn't have a strong start. So their
Got him.
start was on false pretenses. Like their start isn't real. If there's nothing real at the basis of their love because it was created through manipulation. And I just want to say one more thing about Slave Leia. Slave Leia was sexy, but she wasn't sexual. You know what I mean by that? There wasn't a sexual scene with her in that bikini. It was her sitting there and then kicking ass and getting revenge and
Oh,
like
yeah.
prevailing. Like
Yes.
she prevailed in that bikini, dude. There was no sexual anything. Even when Luke and Han, like even when Han was blind, but even when Luke saw her, there was nothing like, ugh, like there was nothing sexual or weird about any of it. She just looked sexy, but you felt like she was in peril.
I want to add, since we talked about Leia getting back at Jabba the Hutt. Thank you.
Jabba?
It's something that I saw in one of the interviews that stood out to me, and it was with Jodie Turner-Smith had mentioned that Star Wars is a patriarchy, and this is kind of like changing that and adding more of a woman's voice and stuff.
So my character, she's a powerful leader. She's a powerful leader. Yes, yes. In a very woman-centered world, which I was very excited to kind of be that, because I feel like Star Wars is very like patriarchal, so it was kind of cool to have like this sort of woman-centered figure.
When I thought of Star Wars, it's like I never thought of it that way, because the first 3 Star Wars had a princess who was in charge of the Rebel Force. She was their leader. Like Leia, like I never saw Luke as their leader. I never saw Han as their leader. Leia was their leader. I always saw it that way, because the opening scene, we're introduced to Princess Leia with Darth Vader. So it's like, all right, she's the one, And even in this moment, like she doesn't have the Force. She's like, in theory, you would consider her a very weak looking character compared to Jabba, right? There's no way she can kill him, but she does it. That's a very empowering moment. And she doesn't shy away from grabbing up a pistol and get into the thick of things with everybody. She's in the front lines with everybody else. And then I think of the prequels. Who do we have? We have a queen. There's a queen who's in charge, and again, isn't afraid to go undercover, get in the thick of things, pick up a pistol. She's there with Anakin fighting the good fight. She doesn't stop. Even when she's pregnant, she's out there. So it's like, I thought it was a matriarchy. Or a monarchy of sorts. Like, was I wrong in what I saw? What
No.
Star Wars were they watching when they say these things?
They don't know what the hell they're saying. They just want to complain. So there's no way Star Wars is patriarchy, and anything you can argue that all the women are so perfect and the men are the flawed ones. In Star Wars, from the beginning,
Yeah.
that's how it is. Princess Leia is probably the most badass out of them all, the strongest and everything. I always viewed them all as equals. When I was a little kid, I never once thought there should be more girl power. I was like, they all complement each other. They all have their strengths. They work together. They're all the same.
I thought Leia was
And
a
then
smart one, honestly.
she was
To
the
me, she
smart
had the
one.
brains. Like anytime Luke or Han said something, she give him that look of like, you stupid.
She was smart. She was powerful. She was strong. She was everything. And then Padme was also a lot of those things. And then Rey is like too perfect at everything with no explanation. And it's just like, it's not patriarchy. It's just people just love throwing that word around. Oh, there's 2 boys and 1 girl. Patriarchy. Like, screw you, man. You're so wrong. Well, and then they throw a girl in Star Wars, a main character, lead girl, and she succumbs to gaslighting and manipulation and like sexual exploitation. And she's like, oh, I'm just gonna go with him, and they're in love. That's not a that's not a patriarchy move.
The
Like
show,
he's gonna make you a bad girl. I'm a bad girl for him. I'm gonna put on his gimp mask.
like the mask, and I can't sensory deprivation, and then I can't see anything, and he's like around.
Would you sip me? I would sip me. I would sip me hard.
First of all, we're just the messenger. We're pointing out what's there, and people get angry because we're right. No, it's true. It's just like,
Yeah.
and the show has layers of defense mechanisms, right? So if you don't like it, you're this bad thing. If you don't like it, you're this bad thing. And then it goes
Yeah.
straight to ad hominem attacks, saying the worst things about you. Oh, you're one of them. This is why you're bad. And just think about it. No one should ever trust something that has put armor on itself such that if you criticize it, you're like a horrible person.
Yeah. Which it's all the, like, what was the recent thing I saw? There was an interview with Headland where she's pretty much just like saying like, oh, all the trolls,
Mm.
we expected that. We
Mm.
Oh my
anticipated
God.
that. Which when you're creating a project, you should never have in the back of your mind, it's like, people are gonna hate this and I'm waiting for them. Oh no, I made a thing that's gonna make you not like this thing that you used to love. You used to love candy, not anymore because I put poo on it. That's what happened here, and she's fully aware of it. Like, and if you didn't like it, well, that's because you're a troll. You didn't like candy poo. All right, that's not my fault. That's on you. And if there's something she actually says, whether you're excited about the direction or not, that's not my business. And
Should be.
it's like if your job is to create entertainment, if I'm not entertained, that is kind of your fault. You know, like I've watched some crap, all right? Like, good example is there's the show Cobra Kai. It's on its 6th season, all right? It's cheesy, goofball, freaking like nostalgia to 100%, all right? The acting in it is abysmal, but the story, it's compelling and it has heart. It has a sense of hope. Like, I know there's a clear good guy and bad guy, and people switch too. There's definitely characters that flop back and forth. If you put lightsabers in these kids' hands, they would be Jedi and Sith, honestly. Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do are the Jedi and the Sith. But there's a lot of crap, like I said, like that's CW level kind of drama where it's just like, oh my God. But then something, beautiful happens. It's like someone learns a lesson. It's like, oh, all right, they're coming over to the good side, and that's heartwarming. I keep on watching it, and you know what? It's a diverse cast. They're all upcoming actors. By all means, according to her mentality and anyone who's a part of this Star Wars world, we should not like it because of those things. Like, if it's diverse, you're not gonna like it. If there's LB, whatever that stuff, you're not gonna like it. That's the argument. But here we go. Cobra Kai, love it. Everyone loves it. You look at the numbers for that show, phenomenal on the critic side and the audience side.
Why, if someone doesn't like, if someone doesn't like something, why are they immediately labeled a troll or a hater? Why do we have to like everything? We can't. It's impossible.
Yeah.
People have to have different opinions. If you don't, then we'd be like cyborgs. We'd be all the same thing. It'd be stupid. It'd be terrible. And why does everyone who don't like things, why do we all have to be silenced too? Why can't we just talk about stuff without being like, oh, you're just a baby. You're a hater. It's like, we have our own opinion. We have our own brains. You can say you like all this stuff, and we're like, okay, that's good. I'm glad you like it.
I've gone on to Rotten Tomatoes, and I don't believe in Rotten Tomatoes as a critic site. I don't think that's where you should be going to see if something's good or not. There's plenty of other better sites to go to. Like, I'd rather use IMDb or Metacritic as a better gauge. I know, and which I've pulled up the numbers. You can put them up here as we talk about this. Rotten Tomatoes is an extreme account of what the census is for this. If you go to those other sites, it kind of goes more to the middle a bit, but even then it's still considered bad. Like it's still not a well-received show from the audience, the people who you're meant to entertain and appease. So here's my thing is like, if the audience can review bomb, is it not also possible that the critics can be paid to over, praise this
Well,
this thing? Why can that be also a truth to the situation? Both things can be true. A thing could be bad and good. The perspective is true depending on how you're looking at it. So
yes.
I think, yeah, sure, some people are review bombing and some people are overpraising.
The problem is that we're so groomed now because of social media and everything that if someone has a different perspective than us, then you're stupid and you're evil and you're bad and I hate you.
Yeah.
Like immediately. And I will not hear the reasons why you think the way you do. Nope. No, 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 no. I don't want to know. I'm gonna it's like, well, if you don't want to hear us out, like we just have reasons why.
I was gonna add, it's like when I went on to Rotten Tomatoes to see some of the reviews because I was curious. Because that's the thing that's the barometer, right? Everyone goes to Rotten Tomatoes. And I was like,
Mm,
all right, I'm gonna click on these reviews. I want to see what the audience is thinking. If you go to page one, there's a 1-star review, and it breaks down the series the way we've broke it down. Bad acting, bad scenes, costuming bad. So it's like, all right, they haven't mentioned anything about anything sexuality, any race. The show is just not well developed. And then you see
mm,
like 10 plus 5-star positive reviews. The show has like a 17% rating. How am I seeing so many positive reviews right in the front? So it's like, okay, well, obviously there's good perspectives, or there's open perspectives here about this show. You just don't want to look at them. You don't want to see that there could be good fans out there who just have
mhm.
their own opinions. It just has to be like they're all bad. It's all bad nerds. There's bad Star Wars fans.
So we're saying Kamir's bad, and there's all this like weird stuff attached to the relationship. We also say Chimere is the best our favorite character. Okay, okay. Is that contradictory? No. If you can think, you can realize it's not. That's why the character is so compelling, because he plays such a actually unique and interesting and bad and horrifying villain. So
Mhm.
he's the bad guy, but what the show in Star Wars' own term is presenting is that's actually the good guy. That's the problem. But as a
Right.
character, it is the best character. He is the best character.
He is an awesome bad guy. He's a great
He's a
bad guy.
great bad guy.
He is the most realistic Sith in all of Star Wars that I've seen. Like he's so this really happens. Bad people really do this to people. Like this is very like a realistic depiction of a bad villain. The problem is Osha. Problem with the show is how they wrote Osha and their relationship. You can have a bad guy. You can have a bad guy, and that's fine. We're supposed to have a bad guy.
Yeah.
But we don't want the protagonist to fall for the bad guy and like end up in love with him at the end and that be a good made it look like it's a good thing. It shouldn't look like it's good.
She's a
And it was
victim.
made to look good. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's a victim. She is, yeah.
And Headland's right. We do want to be free. We feel beaten down by society. And they have this liberty and this courage that we look at that and say, I wish I were like courageous, but it's what you're courageous for.
Yeah.
That and what you use your freedom for that's important. But those two characteristics, the freedom and the willfulness, that's why you're like, oh wow, like he's a bad guy, blah blah blah. But that's, to use her word, that's what seduces you. They're
Mhm.
free, they're true to themselves, they're courageous, and that's the seduction. Don't you want to be that? But it's what you use your courage for, what you use your freedom for, and what you are at the foundation, your spiritual foundation. Where are we wrong? Where is the wrong claim? And not just a gotcha or like, okay, like this was exaggerated at that point wrong, but as a whole, where is the argument invalid?
We've painted out facts and it's just been backed up by the creator.
Yeah, and if there's an error, then you just change your opinion. You're like, okay, yeah, this was wrong there.
Yeah, it's okay to admit that everything we've stated is true and that you still enjoyed it. That's fine.
Yes.
That's
That
totally
is
fine.
also
That's
true.
Hey, we're saying Chimere's a he's a badass character.
Yeah.
Headland made a really scary villain, a
Yeah.
unique one. I
Yeah.
mean, he doesn't look like Tenebris. He doesn't look like Maul. He doesn't look like Palpatine. He doesn't look like Anakin. He's just good looking dude Sith. The Stranger, like, it's like a cowboy. No, no.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
He's got that cowboy. He's like, oh, I'm kind of like, the sad cowboy who's actually like super power, like super good shot. And then it's like he walks into the sun, says like, little lady, I can't stay with you. You're like, oh, guy, that makes him even hotter. I'm not
No,
wrong.
no, that was good. That was good. Yeah.
I'm not wrong. The Strangers is like, boom. It's like the Stephen
Especially that
King.
Star Wars. Star Wars is a Western. It's a space
That's-
Western. So
yeah,
that
so-
just it leans into that idea.
Mhm.
Headland, you made good, interesting bad guy. I mean, you nailed it. Season 2, let's go. No, by the way, people say like, well, don't give them clicks if you like it. If you don't like it, why you watch it? Because I'll do what I want.
Oh,
I'll do
Yeah.
what I want.
well, here's
Yeah.
my thing. It's like, how am I supposed to know if it's good or bad? Like, I could just
Yeah.
go with my instincts and know that it's gonna be bad, and I was right. But it's just like, well, I gotta prove that I'm right. How do I prove that I'm right? I gotta watch it. I have to
Mhm.
suffer to prove my point.
Well, it's also we are giving them clicks so that we will get clicks in return. It's not like we're doing it for
Yeah.
free.
Yeah.
It's not like we're like
Oh.
we're not giving them clicks without a purpose. We want clicks too. So it's an exchange of clicking. We're getting a lot less, but I still want them clicks, man. This is get them.
Oh yeah, if it's hypocritical or self-interest, I'll just say, I don't need to give you a reason. I will do what I want.
Do what I want.
Yeah.
The Khmer taught me that.
Thank you for watching this episode of why we explained all the reasons why we think the Acolyte is bad. If you still like it, that's cool. We've said it before. We respect your opinion. You don't have to respect ours, I guess, because you're gonna do what you want, right? We do what we want. You can find more of our content on our YouTube channel, Not a Strong Start. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Not a Strong Start. You can listen to us anywhere you listen to your podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment, please, and share. But for surely comment, because we love the comments and we will respect your opinion. George and I respond to a lot of comments and we are always respectful because everyone's entitled to their own damn opinion. You can do what you want.
Yes. Do
Yes.
what you want.
Never stop playing. Never stop speaking your truth, guys, like we do. Never stop speaking your truth.
Never stop
Never
fanning
doing
yourself,
what
Rob.
you want. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just saying it again, like, because I wanted to. Why is my doctor a giant squid?